So hello everyone, my name is Summer and I am here to share my testimony about how I came to the Lord and came into a relationship with the Lord. So I hope it encourages you in some way. I hope you are able to resonate and relate to different areas of it, and so that you too could either come into a relationship with the Lord or just grow closer to the Lord. So I hope it blesses you. So I will try and just kind of hit the highlights of everything and not go into too much crazy detail. But growing up was kind of difficult. I was born into, yes, a married couple, but you know, with two people that also had pretty broken childhoods and broken lives, and you know, they weren't really healed and hadn't, you know, worked through those things, and so essentially, you know, it just passes on. And so I was born into a broken marriage, and I don't remember like too much of my parents being together, but 15 months later that my sister was born, and so they began fighting a bit more, and there's a lot in that I'm not going to go into, but the main point is it was a broken marriage, and my sister and I were very young living in that. It got to the point where my dad was drinking a bit more, and my mom had a history growing up with her childhood with drinking, and so this kind of triggered something in her, and she realized that she didn't want to be a part of this, and definitely didn't want her two young girls you know, being a part of that. And so to her, what was the best decision was to leave. And so in deciding to take my sister and I and leave my dad in North Carolina to go to Ohio, where both sides of my family are from, but I was a daddy's girl, so I decided that I wanted to stay. And this is kind of sparked and triggered and began, I guess, the brokenness that would become my life. So at 5 years old, I decided to stay with my dad while my mom and sister left, and it was not a good decision. You know, my dad loved my mom a lot, and you know, the love of his life, you know, and the mother of his children, and she just left. And so I don't blame my father for kind of spiraling, and he honestly did, you know. And so the time that I was there was not good. I remember many things there, but the biggest thing that happened to me was I was rejected by my father. And even though he loved me, he was young and he was hurting himself. And so immediately 5 years old, I was rejected and overlooked. I had to take care of myself, and praise God, you know, I was pretty mature for even a 5-year-old. You know, I've always been pretty mature, or an old soul, whatever, and that ended up saving my life. So fast forward, some other family members saw that it was a problem that I was there, and so they decided to take me from my dad without him knowing and fly me to my mom in Ohio. Excuse me. So these family members took me to another family member, and then they got me to my mom's dad, my grandpa, and they put me on a plane to get to my mom. And so long story short, ended up having a lot of issues, you know, from that. A lot of traumatic things happened while I was there that I don't need to go into. And the moral of the story is, when my mom got me, you know, I was still kind of high on some of the drugs that were coursing the house, and a lot of psychological, you know, issues. And really what I, you know, from my perspective, is I became broken. Like as a little girl, it's just, I broke, you know, some of the things I had to go through at such a young age. And I quickly transferred into like a trauma brain almost. So when I look back, my sister and I talk about our childhood, I don't remember much of it. I remember remembering things, and I remember like knowing things, but memories and things like that I don't remember. I kind of blacked out a lot of it. So fast forwarding, it's my sister, my mom, and I, And we moved from house to house, church to church, place to place. Again, my mother not, being young and being a single mom now, and we had no contact with my dad, and her trying to figure things out, but also still having trauma from, her life and her childhood. We really did just move around a lot, and that caused some trauma as well, going to 13, 14 different schools and different churches, which was great, to still have the having the Lord somewhat in our lives. We didn't talk about the Lord. I didn't know him. I just knew I believed in him. And so, through elementary school, through middle school, moved around a lot, and I quickly became depressed. I think in elementary school was the first time that I remember being depressed. I was like an out-of-body experience that was disconnected from myself, and my sister and I struggled with really bad anxiety. We would get sick every day before school, like driving to school, and I would go to the nurse's office every day. They made it a really big joke, and that was pretty traumatizing in itself. So anyways, we get to, I think I'm about 11 or 12, and my dad comes back into our lives, and we start seeing him, and I remember he's still having some, things he was working through, but he was trying to, he was attempting to have a relationship with us, and that was amazing. And we would go to church. He was taking us to church. I remember he got baptized, and he was super involved with the church, and it was great. And then high school time, and again, I'm super depressed at this time, super broken. I use that, terminology. I didn't have a lot of friends, which I don't blame people for not wanting to be my friends. Family members didn't really like me. The people I went to school with didn't really like me. I was just a super rough, crunchy girl on the outside. On the inside, I was actually very ooey gooey, and I really did have a lot of love and care. I was just so hurt. Fast forwarding to high school now, severely depressed, anxious. I moved schools again, which was really rough for me because I'd been with the same people for 5 years, and that was like the biggest deal to me. Even though no one liked me, I didn't care. I don't think I really knew how much people didn't like me and how I didn't have friends, but I didn't care. I was in the marching band, I was a cheerleader, and I was really good at those things. Like I did well in those things, and that was really good for me. And then I moved again, and when that happened, I remember I got invited to my first party, being a freshman, and I drank and I smoked weed, and that kind of sparked the whole numbing my pain that I was dealing with. I was going back and forth between my mom and her boyfriend's house, and then my dad and my stepmom's house, both not stable, God-fearing, lovely houses, we'll say that, So I heavily started drinking on the weekends and smoking weed. Not too much into weed, at the beginning, but I partied a lot and stuff, knowing different people in different towns and stuff like that. It was just, I think I was just searching for community and searching to numb the pain. And then about that time, my dad got promoted at work, and that's when things kind of went downhill again. My parents not processing through some of the traumas and pains that they went through as a child. For my dad, when he got promoted and got power and money, it didn't go too well. And so he began getting into drinking again, drugs pretty bad. Now he had a very good job, and you wouldn't have known he was doing drugs and stuff, but he was. And then he ended up having an affair as well, which we didn't know about for a couple years. And then on my birthday, actually, I come to find out when I turned 16 or 17, I think my stepmom found out. And so all this was going on, and we didn't know it. My sister and I didn't know it. My stepmom did know. And so then as this started progressing, my dad being on drugs and being high and not being high, we got to see those different sides of him, and that was very traumatizing. Of course, he stopped going to church at this time as well, and he slowly started to pull away from us, but I still had a pretty solid relationship with him. And again, I'm heavily drinking, smoking weed, and hanging out with friends, you know, staying out, hanging out with boys and stuff. And then my senior year, my stepmom got pregnant, and then she had the baby the day before I graduated high school, and then come to find out the mistress got pregnant. And my sister and I knew the whole time, but again, this wasn't something we talked about. We didn't know. So we didn't know the whole time. He didn't know that we knew. And then the baby was born, and then the baby died. It was the summer of 2018, and the baby died, and it was a baby boy. So he finally had a son, and so he passed away. He was 1 month old, and we never got to meet him. And at this time, I was already severely depressed. I was already not wanting to really do life anymore. I was questioning my friend group. I was questioning what I was doing. At this time, like, my dad and I and my mom and I didn't have good relationships, so I already decided to move out of my alma mater town 4 hours away to the beach to just get away from them, honestly. And then this happened, and my dad and I got in a big fight. He kind of just... Oh, I skipped some pieces, back up. While my stepmom is pregnant and, like, she's about to give birth, my dad and I were talking about having a party for my graduation. And my stepmom didn't want that because she was about to give birth the same time I was graduating. So she didn't want that. And my dad didn't like that. And so he told us to leave. And he packed his bags and he left my stepmom and went to go stay with the mistress. When that happened, my stepmom called me and she told me everything. She told me about the mistress. She told me about the drugs and everything. And my sister and I were very upset with my dad and stopped talking to him. Then after that, when we all came together to kind of, because he had been staying somewhere else, we were staying at our mom's house, my mom and her boyfriend's house, and then my stepmom was with her parents. So when we all came back together to talk about everything shifted after that. My dad again began rejecting me. And then that was when I specifically remember he used to be a very, like, touchy person with us, and he stopped doing that. And one day I'm not sure if he was on drugs or not on drugs. And so he was talking to me, and he may have given me a hug and was, like, talking with me a bit. And I remember I talked to my friend, called her, and I was like, listen, like, my dad, I think he's getting better. Like, he did this and he said this, and then we hugged, and, like, I think things are getting better. And I remember being so happy. And then the next day I go into his room and I go to sit on the edge of his bed to, like, talk to him, and he's kind of, like, sleeping a little because he worked second shift at this time. And I remember he rolled over and he was just like, get the F away from me. But he said the actual word, you know, he said, get the F away from me. And, like, again, like, just kind of told me to get out of there. And it crushed me. I was like, I'm done. And I think that's when I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm moving. I'm done with this. This is not good for me. I don't deserve this. Back to when the baby dies, I'm on vacation with my friend. We're at the beach. And my dad and I get in this huge fight. We drink while we're there. We have some friends over, smoke weed together. We do all this stuff. And we're talking about if we don't want to, you know, hang out with our friends anymore. So we get back. And I remember it's like the same week, I think, and we go to this party. And normally I kept a pretty good, you know, control of myself. Normally we just drank with our friends at a friend's house, and, like, we all even spent the night. We just had this whole group of girls and guys, and we would stay at one of the guys' house. We were all good friends. Everything was safe. Not condoning any of this, by the way. Underage drinking, not good. But at least we were safe about it. We always had a DD. I mean, I don't know what to say. This party was not that. But we were still pretty close to them. Like, a couple of my friends and I ended up staying at the guy's house. But I remember I don't remember a lot of it. Like, that's how bad it was. And normally I didn't get like that. It was like second week in July. And kind of a little point in the story is this is July. So all this past year, I also was in a relationship, the first ever relationship that I got into, and at the end of 2017, and it was not even a relationship. This man was not good. He was, I don't want to name call, but he was, you know, probably. We were only together for like start to finish. I mean, from texting to like breaking up for like 2 months. That was it. And it traumatized me for 2 years. And he abused me in so many different ways. So we broke up at the beginning of 2018, and the Lord began coming after me. We even went to church together a couple times. And the Lord just, like when I look back through my photos and notes and stuff, he was just he wasn't slowly, I was slowly accepting what he was doing, you know, pulling me in, drawing me in. You know, I remember one time my sister and I, because we were really close at this time, we went to this party together with some guys we were talking to at the time, and we got back, it was like an hour wait, so we got back at like 3:30 maybe, and woke up about 6:30 to go to church, so I could drive us an hour and a half away to go to church. Like, that's how much the Lord is pulling me. And every time I go, I cry so hard, you know, but then I go and smoke weed. At this time, I was smoking weed every single day, all day long. So looking back, the Lord is definitely coming after me. So summer 2018, when all these things just pile up, you know, passing on my little brother I never met, you know. Guys, my phone stopped recording. I am so sorry. I'm going to try my best to summarize because I don't know really where I left off. This is so embarrassing, but I'm here editing it and I literally got off so much. So I'm so sorry. I'm just going to add in this little bit. And I was, you know, going to church, and I was really emotional at church. I cried every single time. I remember seeing puddles of tears on the ground, you know, every time. And so when I got back from the vacation where, my dad and I got in the fight, and I found out my brother died. You know, I went to that one last party that week, and then later on that week, I had really just got to the end of myself completely, and literally thought to myself, okay, I'm just gonna give this whole Jesus thing one more shot. I didn't know the Bible, didn't know the books in the Bible, things like that. So I looked up just on the internet, on Google, I think, like scriptures for depression, because I was 19, I was really depressed. I didn't know what else to do. And so Deuteronomy 31:8 came up. So when I went to flip open my Bible, I actually flipped right open to the book of Deuteronomy. And as I began searching for chapter 31 and verse 8, I saw I had actually flipped open to chapter 31. And so as I'm going through all the pages looking for the verse, in the top right hand corner of the page, you know how you like doggy ear the pages? It was like that. And so when I uncovered it, like, you know, to look for the verse, it had actually been covering verse 8. And it said, do not be afraid. Like, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. And so it was just this overwhelming encounter for me, you know, in a time where I felt so unseen and so unloved and unlovable, you know, like looked over, not cared for, like you name it, like empty inside, lost inside, so low. And then the God of the universe that I had always believed in my entire life, I just didn't have a relationship with. I knew he created grass and he created me and he loved me, but to see him go out of his way to sit with me on my bedroom floor, someone who thought that they were unworthy of anyone's love, but yet the God who created everything came to sit with me to tell me he loved me, and all the traumatic things I'd been through, you know, growing up until that point, he was with me. Like, that's what I felt like. He was letting me know that he was with me and all that, and he had never left me, and he would never leave me. It overwhelmed me. It changed my life. 360-degree turnaround for me. I deleted social media, stopped texting boys, hanging out with boys, stopped hanging out with my friends. That was the last party I ever went to. Stopped drinking, stopped smoking weed. I was done. Because in that moment, the love of God filled that hole in my heart that I was desperately looking for things to fulfill, like drinking, like smoking weed, like boys, like friends, looking to fill that void. Yet in a moment, God filled it, and it took away all the desires that I had to numb the pain of my past, and to look for freedom and look for love and look for someone to tell me I'm worthy of love, because he did it. So that's all I'm going to say, because I think I hope I touched up on everything. And please ignore my cat. That is desperate for attention. Maybe he needs Jesus too. So thank you guys. Yes, that's basically my testimony. I know I didn't have the worst life and worst childhood, you know, but I think what really got me is from a young age, you know, traumatic things happened to me again and again and again and again. And so it really just kicked me down a lot. And so by the time I only reached 19 before I just reached the end of myself, and didn't want to go anymore. And the God of all, creator of the heavens and the earth, met me on my bedroom floor and let me know that he loved me and he cared about me, and he had never left me and desired a relationship with me. So that was really all it took for me. So now, for the past almost 5 years now, I just have grown so much and have healed and worked through all the different traumatic things I went through in my childhood and, teenage years and things like that. And slowly but surely walking more in freedom and healing and growing closer to God, and out of an overflow, being able to lead other people closer to God or lead people into salvation, if it's proper timing by the Lord. Being able to receive people's love. For a long time, I didn't think I was worthy of love. And so now being able to receive people's love and receive the Lord's love specifically. So, I hope it bless you in some way, and, you can relate and resonate with a lot of things that I said, and that it can inspire you to share your testimony. The word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. So, my testimony I'm sharing with you is your testimony as well, and we need to never forget our own personal testimony. We should share it with everyone. And so, I think that's all I have for you. Definitely talk more another time about like some of the different things that, like my time in Dallas, my time in North Carolina for those 2 years, and just the whole trip I've been on in the past year with the book that I mentioned, and focusing on ministry and all that jazz. So the Lord loves you. He desires the same love, same relationship, and he desires for you to receive his pursuit of you. And just like he did for me, and I received it. And like I said, that contentment that comes from the Lord and only from the Lord, you stop grasping at things. You stop grasping at relationships and wealth and community and drugs, and all these things, because I think we're all desperately searching for that fulfillment of this hole in our heart that we don't know what it is, and so we began chasing and looking and grasping at anything and everything to try and shove it in that hole in our heart, and it's just not going to fit, and why I quit doing everything I was before, because I found it and it fit, and it was God, and I had the contentment, I had the fulfillment, and I no longer desired to drink or smoke or hang out with boys or party or anything like that. So blessings to you, friends. I love you very much with the love of Christ, and he loves you as well. So bless you.